Here's the big story so far. The costs of Obamacare have been mostly indirect, but 2015 is the year when the costs of Obamacare will be direct, right there in your tax form. If you don't need or want insurance, you're going to pay a significant fine. If you can't afford insurance for your employees, you'll pay a lot more. You could get a waiver, but that's going to take time and effort to file. The burden of government is growing, not shrinking, and just in time for a presidential campaign. A big issue for that campaign? You bet. A big issue for businesses? Ditto. Fasten your seatbelts. Varney and Company starts right now. And I'm David Asman in for Stewart. Let's get right to the big story. Beating Obamacare author Betsy McCoy is with us. Betsy, what does all this mean for individual filers and businesses? What changes are they going to see in 2015?
Trouble. It means trouble. First of all, every individual is going to have to prove that they're enrolled in an Obamacare compliant plan. They're going to have to attach that proof when they file their taxes. Otherwise, they're going to have to apply for an exemption, Form 8965.
How much time and effort is that going to take to file?
Well, the instructions for that form are 12 pages long, so you can tell that this is going to take a lot of time. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that 90% of people will ultimately, who are uninsured, will ultimately qualify for that exemption, but for many, it's going to be back and forth with a lot of paperwork. And the fines are not small. It's 2% of your adjusted gross income, plus another penalty for your uninsured spouse, and more penalties for each of your uninsured children.
Now, what happens if I decide not to pay? Because I understand I'll be subject to penalties, but aren't those penalties dependent on whether I get a refund? And if I don't get a refund, do I have to pay those penalties?
That's right. The fact is that you will be building up a debt with the IRS that will be offset against any future refund for which you may be eligible.
What if I never get a refund?
Well,
I mean, does the debt just go on and I never have to pay it?
This guy's too smart for the IRS. You're outsmarting them. But the fact is, employers are also facing big problems. Employers with 100 or more full-time employees are going to have to provide this Obamacare compliant insurance. It's a one-size-fits-all benefit package, or pay a fine of $2,000 per uninsured employee. Now, here's the catch. Retailers and other types of industries that have a large workforce of moderately paid people are going to really feel this. It's going to add about $1 per hour to the cost of each of those employees.
We're going to be talking to Zane Tankle coming up. He's the owner of a lot of Applebee's in New York. He's got real concerns about it. But what about
one more thing that's very important.
Let me just ask before we go on to the one more thing. The businesses, if they decide not to pay for their employees, most businesses at some point get some kind of refund and some tax deal from the government. So they are going to be more directly, it's going to be much harder for businesses to avoid paying.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the other rub. For employers who have 50 or fewer full-time employees, those employees are facing bad news this year, too, because those employers have to buy Obamacare compliant insurance or no insurance at all. And about 20 million people who depend on their employer for insurance are going to lose it this year because those plans that are currently offered by small employers are going to get canceled. They're not Obamacare compliant. So out of the 31 million people who work for small businesses or small employers of one sort or another, about 20 million are going to get a cancellation notice this year.
Now, are all the delays off? All the delays that President Obama caused because he didn't want to have political interference with the election. Of course, that didn't work out too well. But are all the delays off, or are we going to be hit by everything in 2015?
Well, who knows whether there will be more delays when you have a president who wants to govern by fiat. Anything can happen, David. It's not the rule of law anymore. So there could be more news down the pike delaying or changing any of these penalties or rules.
I know you want to chime in on the political implications. We do have Doug Schoen, but I'm going to come back to you. You can chime in as you get the urge to do so. Let's get into the politics of Obamacare with Doug Schoen, former Clinton advisor, joining us now from Miami. Doug, is Obamacare going to be a drag on the Democratic contenders going into 2015?
Oh, David, I think so. And here's the question. I think it's a fundamental one. Hillary Clinton, the mother of Hillary Care, who faced that very public defeat in 1994, if I remember correctly, will have to defend and explain Obamacare. And if she supports revision, which I think she's hinted at, it will be a real question, where does she differ from the administration?
Well, don't we already know where she differs? Because she had Hillary Care. And Hillary Care, frankly, according to Betsy McCoy and others, it was Obamacare on steroids.
Well, again, that was 20 years ago. It's unlikely that she would say, let's go back to what we advocated and failed 20 years ago. But that being said, what that puts the onus on her is to say, where is she going to take health care now, given what we know?
That's right. And in fact, Hillary Care offers a window on her thinking. The fact is, way back in 1993, when she wrote that plan, she wouldn't take no for an answer. If you didn't enroll, the government would involuntarily enroll you in Hillary Care. And if you didn't pay the premium, she told the House committee that they would garnish your wages. Yeah. So that was really coercive.
Now, Doug, I know you're a Democratic consultant, but let me ask you to opine on Republicans, because I would think that if we get bogged down with more Obamacare stuff in 2015, that hurts Mitt Romney's chance, because a lot of people were urging him to run again. But, of course, he's stuck with Romney Care in Massachusetts.
Well, he is, but he's also got, I think, a bigger issue that goes beyond Romney Care. That's Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
Because if Jeb Bush runs, I would doubt, sincerely doubt, whether Mitt Romney will be able to or want to run.
Let's play that out a little, Doug. Romney, of course, was unable to kind of run away from any connection at all to government health care because of what happened in Massachusetts. Does Jeb have a clean slate here? Will he be able to do what Romney couldn't do in attacking Obamacare?
Well, I think he can on Obamacare. The question is Common Core, immigration, taxes.
But we're talking Obamacare now. On that, he has a clean slate.
I understand that. I think on Obamacare, he'll be able to argue for substantial revision. The problem he and the Republicans have, David, is if they just say repeal without offering policy alternatives, it'll be a problem for them.
What could Hillary say critical of Obamacare? I mean, is she critical of the individual mandate, or is there anything about Obamacare that she could afford to be critical about leading into the 2016 campaign?
Well, that's the real problem, and I'm curious what Betsy thinks is the way she could thread the needle, because I don't think she can come out against the individual mandate. I don't think she can talk about relaxing some of the more coercive elements of the legislation. So my question is, how does she do it without saying we got to start from scratch? I don't have a good answer to that, David.
Well, the fact is, she has been ducking every question about her position on health reform. But one thing is clear: nominating Hillary Clinton or electing Hillary Clinton without getting straight answers about her views on health reform could be very dangerous to your health.
That's Betsy McCoy, Doug Schoen. Thank you very much, gang. Very interesting
stuff. Thank you, David.
Stuff.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you as well.